Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast. Now, in last week's podcast, I did a little bit of a rant on some of the comments that I get that I find a little bit annoying. Like most of my rants, the Brussels sprouts thing or doggone a coffee, I think most of you recognize that I was just having some fun. It's my sense of humor. I'm basing that hypothesis on the fact that that video currently sits at a 98.5% like rating. However, there were a few people that were kind of put off by that rant and made sure to let me know about it. The comments that I got varied from "you're a little bitch," well, not you, me, I am, I guess, to "you're sort of a mean-spirited, angry person, Steve," to the other end of the spectrum where there was one that was really very thoughtfully and tactfully written. And in it, this gentleman, I'm assuming he's a gentleman, seemed like a nice guy, he wrote that people who are very creative and that like helping other people and that are caring and sort of deeply emotional people, that they can be extra sensitive to criticism and comments. And when someone like me then responds to criticism or comments in a sensitive way, that it can be alienating to some viewers. And I replied to him. I said, "Thank you. I don't disagree with anything that you wrote. My sense of humor isn't going to resonate with everybody. Some people it might even turn off. But I will give some thoughts to what you wrote and decide how I think is best for me to move forward." And as I thought about it, I remembered a quote by Gabrielle Reese. She said, in life, actually I think I just threw in life, she just said, 30% of people will love you, 30% of people will hate you, 30% of people couldn't care less. And I'm not sure where the other 10% went. But I think the gist of that quote is that you're not going to please everybody. So be who you are. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be who I am. My sense of humor, which can from time to time be a little snarky, it can be a little sarcastic, it can be a little bit mischievous, but it's never angry. It doesn't come from a place of anger or mean-spiritedness. I guarantee you, if you ever get the opportunity to see me angry, you will not mistake it for my sense of humor. But fortunately, since I've turned around my life over the last year and a half or so, I don't get angry much at all, and if I do, it's just a very tiny little bit. So I'm going to keep being me. And if you find my sense of humor off-putting and it's a deal breaker for you, then hit the unsubscribe button. I'm saying that completely respectfully. There have been channels that I've watched for a long time, at one point really liked, and then something he or she did, that content provider, just turned me off, and I stopped watching. It happens. So if that's the point you're at with me, if you're one of those people, that's okay. I thank you for what you have watched so far, and I sincerely, truly wish you nothing but the best. And that's all I have to say about that. So now I'm going to segue from talking about comments to talking about comments on comments. I've gotten a few different types of sort of similar comments lately that I want to talk about. One is the people that are surprised that I responded to them, or surprised that I responded to them so quickly. It seems that a number of people then, after I talked with them, they've said that they make comments on other channels and they feel like whatever they're typing, they're just doing for their own edification. It's just going off into the ether and probably no one's seeing it. But I see pretty much all the comments and I try and respond to all of them, or at least acknowledge them, give them a like or a heart or whatever. To me, that is part of what this channel is about. To me, that is what keeps this from being television. I mean, if I'm responding to you and we're interacting in the comment section, then that's social media. If I'm not, then it's just a TV channel, and that's boring. So I don't know what the rest of your experience is with comments and other content providers. I personally don't leave that many comments on other people's videos. Usually if I do, it's just something like, thank you, that was great, that was really helpful. And I really don't expect any sort of reply in return. A similar comment to that I've gotten is, "Steve, I hope you never get so big that you quit responding to comments. That seems like sort of a double-edged sword. I kind of hope I do get that big. That would be great. But I will say that I always intend to stay involved with the community and in the comment section. If I get big enough that I can afford to hire a helper or two, probably at a pathetically low rate, I'm going to put those people on the more administrative type of tasks. Maybe the video editing, although I do enjoy doing the video editing, I recognize I'm not great at it. In fact, I think anyone with slightly higher than rudimentary skill at editing could probably do a better job with my videos than I can. So that's one I would be willing to farm out. Also, the administrative aspects of posting the videos, getting the descriptions all squared away, keywords, video tags, the links that I pop to videos up there, the end cards that I put at the end, the thumbnails. That's another thing I'm not super great at. I think most people can probably create a better video thumbnail than I can. And then, just the whole website stuff, posting the recipes up to the website, converting to grams, the food photography, all of those sort of things. These are things I think that a lot of people could either do or do better than I could do, and I would be willing to part with that far earlier than I would be willing to part with the interaction with the community in the comments. So for anyone that's concerned that at some point I get too big and that I'll quit interacting with the community in the comments, I don't see that happening. The next thing I want to talk about is something that is going to affect all of you soon. I got an email from YouTube stating that, I think it's as of July 27th, they are changing their policy on mid-roll ads. So for those of you who don't know, a mid-roll ad are either the commercials that completely interrupt a video, that happen in the middle of a video, maybe not even at the middle of the video, but at some point in the video, or sometimes just right down here in this area, there'll be like a little pop-up that pops up. That sounded redundant. And generally there's like a little X on the corner that allows you to get rid of it. The current YouTube policy is that any video over 10 minutes long can have mid-roll ads, plural. And as a content creator, you decide, do you want to manually place them, or would you like to let YouTube place them? The only videos where I do mid-roll ads are these podcasts, because they're generally in the 15 to as long as maybe 25 minutes. So putting that little break in there seems like an okay thing, sort of right in the middle. I try to put it in a fairly logical place, right between topics, and have like a little fade to black and then fade back in, so it's sort of natural. But for me, that's plenty. I think that putting ads, mid-roll ads in a recipe video, I think that would feel very intrusive. It would interrupt the flow, and that's not something I'd want to do. So here's the new YouTube policy that's going into effect, I think on the 27th. Now, any video more than 8 minutes long can have mid-roll ads. Additionally, YouTube is going to start automatically putting mid-roll ads in any video over 8 minutes long, unless the content creator opts out. So this means that any of my videos, historically, that are over 8 minutes long will now start to have mid-roll ads placed in them, unless I opt out, which I'm going to do. The reason I'm going to opt out, first and foremost, is one of the things I promised myself when I started this channel and when I started my website was I wasn't going to do the same sort of things that I find annoying. So on the website, I wasn't going to clutter it all up with pop-ups and a bunch of BS. I wanted people to be able to get right to a printable recipe. Similarly, if I'm doing videos, I want you to be able to watch the recipe and sort of feel the flow of the recipe. I don't want that interrupted with a commercial. My hope, and it's probably a naive hope, is that other content creators will also opt out. Otherwise, YouTube is just going to turn into a great big commercial factory, in my opinion. And I don't know, well, I guess I do know why YouTube is doing it. It's money. The more ads you show, the more revenue for YouTube. It means more revenue for content creators like me. So we are sort of enticed to place ads that help both us and that help Google Ads and YouTube. Now, I will do the old never say never thing. If we get to a point here on YouTube where it's just standard practice that everybody's doing commercials throughout their videos. And, I'm the foolish one for not doing it. Maybe I wind up doing it. I hope that it doesn't get to that point. I think if it does, I think a lot of people will probably go to YouTube Premium, the commercial-free service. I mean, I've been tempted to do it quite a bit myself. In fact, I'm probably only a few perfect keto commercials away from pulling the trigger on YouTube Premium. So be aware, you're going to start seeing a lot more commercials on YouTube, except from this guy. Oh, and right now you're going to see one. So here you go. Up until a couple of podcasts ago, I had been doing a little segment for a number of my podcasts where I kind of did a little bit of an optimistic or positive spin on this current world situation that we're in with this novel Mexican beer virus thing. I talked about, maybe some of the upsides of quarantine and social distancing, and honestly, I just don't have it in me anymore. It's kind of quit being cute, truth be told. It's starting to get maybe a little bit rant-worthy. So first of all, I don't get why every news story starts with referring to it as the novel C-word virus. Novel to me kind of seems like a good word. Like when someone comes up with a new idea or a new approach, you say, wow, that's very novel. No one ever really says it negatively, like, wow, that's a totally novel idea. It's always a good thing. This doesn't feel so good, I think there's probably a better adjective, like the sucky virus. The, man, this is really a dumpster fire of a year virus, something like that. But not novel. So that's the first thing I'd like to see go away. Wow, I almost felt like Andy Rooney right there. So that's the first thing I'd like to see go away. Why do we call it the novel virus? I probably didn't get quite as old and angry sounding as Andy Rooney right there. Crotchety. I think that's a good word. That's like, he was a crotchety guy, I think. I think I'm using that adjective correctly. But I digress. So first there's, calling it the novel virus, don't like that. I've talked repeatedly about how I'm not a great rule follower. This is just in life, and it has been forever. I don't like being told what to do. So obviously all of the rules now that are in place when you go out in public really kind of ratchet up my anxiety. And it varies depending on your location. Some are a little bit more laid back. You go to other places like Trader Joe's, holy cow, that's pretty regimented right there. And this is a problem at Trader Joe's because to me, Trader Joe's is the sort of store where I want to look at stuff. I want to be looking at labels. I want to be pawing through food items and seeing what's there. It's just, to me, that's a fun place. I don't generally like to shop. I kind of hunt, but at Trader Joe's, I like to shop. And the problem now with social distancing is this starts to irritate other people. I mean, it irritates me when I'm waiting behind someone. I was at Costco the other day, and this woman spent, it was probably only 1 minute, trying to decide which packet of New York strips she was going to buy. Normally, pre-social distancing, I would have just sidled right up beside her and said, how are the steaks looking today, ma'am? I'm going to go with this one. It would have been a nice little interaction. But now, I got to stand back 6 feet and wait. And waiting 1 minute feels like waiting an eternity, especially when other people sort of start to queue up at different angles. They kind of want to get in on those steaks too. I was here first. And there was this old lady, I don't know, about 90 degrees from me that was clearly thinking she was going to cut in front of me. And that wasn't going to happen. So I rammed her really hard with my cart and I got my steaks. Oh, that was an example of my sense of humor right there. I didn't ram her or anything like that. I actually waved her forward. I let her go. That's the kind of guy I am. But back to Trader Joe's. They've got everything like spaced out there with the footprints. You got to stand here, stand there. There's a woman with a sign. And I started approaching her. She apparently was in charge of the register line. And I started walking up to her and she gives me the, sir, you need to get in line. And it's probably good that I was wearing a mask because I'm pretty sure I made a face. because all I wanted to do was ask a question. I've been told that they make these jicama wraps that are keto friendly that are at some Trader Joe's, and I wanted to know if they had them. So I had to convince her, from 6 feet away, naturally, that I just want to ask a question, is all. Please don't make me stand in line just to ask a question. I used to love going to Costco. I would go to Costco once a week, regardless of how big my shopping list was. I just like going through Costco. And some people complain about the Easter egg hunt or treasure hunt, whatever they call it at Costco, where they're always kind of rearranging the store. So the thing where you used to know where to find it, it's not where it was anymore, so you got to look around. I even kind of enjoyed that. But now, again, with the whole social distancing thing, I kind of want to get in and out of there as quickly as possible. Not that I'm afraid that I'm being exposed to this novel virus, but rather it kind of freaks me out seeing everybody in their masks. And just sort of the overall anxious behavior that is exuded by people. One of the things that I do, I've got the Amazon Echo. I've got a bunch of them throughout the house, and I create my shopping list and my Costco list with that. I'm not going to speak her name because I don't want to trigger her right now, or if you've got one in the room, don't want to trigger that. I use that to compile my Costco list, and then I've got it on my phone, and as I'm shopping and I put something in my cart, I swipe it off the list. Delete. And I was in the produce area following the signs. It says walk in this direction, so you're going counterclockwise. And I grab some raspberries, and then I grab my phone to swipe it off the list, and a woman behind me says, "Excuse me," like I'm slowing down traffic. And it startled me enough that I didn't respond. I just went, "Oh, sorry," and I went going. And I thought, wait a second, why should I be sorry that I was just checking something off my list? It's not like I was trying to 3-star a level in Angry Birds and I'm holding up the line here. But it's just an example of how some people are getting really, really sort of tense and moody out there. And I don't like being around tense and moody. I like sort of laid back. Except when I'm doing my rant here. This is like my one therapy, to kind of let it all out. One thing that I kind of do like, I'm going to do like a sort of a positive negative. On the masks, starting to see some cooler masks out there. It's not just all the surgical masks anymore. You ready for mine? It's me, Mario! I get to have a little bit of fun when I go out wearing my mask. I get some compliments, I get some smiles. That's kind of nice. So that's the positive. The negative I discovered is when you burp while wearing a mask, because that burp has nowhere to go. Like, imagine if someone else came up to you and cupped their hands around their mouth and your mouth and nose like this, just like this, from an inch away, and just ripped off a belch right up your nose. That's pretty much what it's like when you're wearing a mask. It's got nowhere to go. So if you were eating some, say, garlic salami on some keto crackers earlier, and then you belch, whoop, right up the nose, that will make your eyes water. So let me ask you this. Do you have an especially cool mask? If so, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments below. Or if you've seen one that you think is especially cool, that would be neat. Now, I have seen some. Now, I haven't seen it in person, but I saw an ad for it where you can send a picture of yourself and they will, whatever the printing process is on a mask, they will print the bottom of your face on a mask. That seems really, really creepy to me. Am I wrong? Am I wrong in thinking that's weird? You can let me know down in the comments. But that's all I had to say about the C word situation right now. So I started this podcast talking about comments, and I'm going to end it talking about comments. I got a comment that I started to reply to, and I thought this comment is too important to just type a reply to. It deserves some podcast time. So I'm going to read it, and I'm going to reply to it right now. What advice do you have for people who are doing keto but struggling with it? It seems like it was pretty easy for you to stay in ketosis, reached your goal weight, and now are maintaining it. I'm a member of a lot of keto Facebook groups. Most of the members complain about being able to stick with the diet long enough or are not seeing the results as fast. There are even popular keto channels who have had videos of, "I gained it all back" or "fell off for weeks at a time." What is your secret to staying motivated? Do you ever have cheat meals? It's kind of hard to answer that first question. What advice would I give to people that are struggling with keto without knowing what they're struggling with? Are they struggling because of cost? Are they struggling because of a perceived lack of variety? Are they struggling because they can't have a food they used to crave? Are they struggling because they don't have the time to cook? What is it? I would need to know the answer to that for me to be able to give a decent answer. I can say that I haven't struggled for a few reasons. The first is I love to cook. And to me, there has been absolutely no lack of variety in terms of what I can eat. Now, there are some things that I used to really love to eat that I just don't eat anymore. So I don't eat potatoes anymore, obviously. I don't drink beer anymore. I don't have pasta anymore. But we are to the point now with a lot of creative keto bakers out here on YouTube and on the internet. I guess that's redundant because YouTube is on the internet. But making breads and rolls and crackers and things like that, that I don't feel deprived. Kind of along those same lines, I think you need to create an environment for yourself where there is not temptation. I've mentioned repeatedly that I live in a non-keto household. There is never a shortage of high carb, high sugar junk food around. And the way that I avoid this is I make sure that I have plenty of keto alternatives, that I've always got a batch of keto crackers squared away, or some sort of keto nuts, whether it's like my wasabi almonds, or the candied pecans, or some sort of keto cookie, or fat bombs. When I see other people snacking and I feel myself starting to get that trigger, that impulse that I should snack too, I'm able to go grab some keto crackers, grab a fat bomb, whatever it is, and get back to the right place mentally. In terms of staying motivated, what motivates me? Go back and watch my first transformation video. See some of the pictures of me pre-keto. Listen to me describe what my health was like. Anti-keto people tend to describe keto as unsustainable. Quit listening to those people. The standard American diet is unsustainable. The standard American diet is what will put you in your grave. The standard American diet is what makes your joints hurt, what makes your blood pressure go up. It's what messes up your lipid profile. The list goes on and on. I had an absolute laundry list of physical ailments and mental as well. I was super depressed, super anxious, moody. Everything hurt. It hurt getting out of bed. I mean, I didn't sit up out of bed. I didn't get out of bed. I rolled out of bed. And this is not a metaphor. I literally would roll over and onto my knees on the floor and then push myself up to get out of bed. And I would grunt a lot while doing it. I was a 50-year-old who felt like an 80-year-old. And I truly believed that I was going to follow in my father's footsteps and be dead by the time I was 55. I kind of felt it was just inevitable. And by changing my lifestyle, notice I'm not calling keto a diet, by changing my dietary lifestyle to keto, all of these things are a distant memory. Yeah, I lost 70, 75 pounds. I lost 75, but I'm back up like 10 since this whole C word thing. So I'm still 65 pounds lower than when I started. Feeling amazing. If someone said to me, though, here's your choice. You can keep feeling the way you're feeling, but you're going to get that 65 pounds back. You're going to go back to weighing 230 pounds, or you can stay where you're at right now, around 165, and feel the way you used to feel. I would rather be 230 pounds and feel the way I feel now. The happiness that I feel, the way my joints feel, the way my knees feel, the energy that I have, the fact that I don't have any digestive issues anymore. The list goes on, and every day I seem to come up with something new that I realize, wow, I haven't had a canker sore in over a year. Crazy. I used to get them all the time. And I know that all of this has been due to the ketogenic lifestyle. How do I stay motivated? Because the alternative is going back to the most miserable place I've ever been in my life. And that sticking with the ketogenic diet keeps me in the best place that I've ever been in my life. It's hard not to be a zealot when it comes to keto. For me anyway. I mean, I truly, honestly, have not felt this good and this healthy easily since college. To feel this way at age 52, to me, is pretty much nothing short of miraculous. Keto is like a wonder drug. If someone gave you a wonder drug that cured everything that ailed you, why would you stop taking it? So that's how I stay motivated. Hopefully that's motivational for you too if you find that you're struggling. Give some hard thought to what it used to be like and ask yourself, is it worth it? Which leads to the last question, do you ever have cheat meals? Rarely. Maybe once a quarter. I did one recently. It's going to be in the video that I do on Wednesday when I review the Keto Mojo Bluetooth model, where I was intentionally trying to knock myself out of ketosis and tried to get just a massive, massive glucose spike. You'll watch the video and you'll see how that turned out. I feel pretty crummy the day after doing something like this. So for me to do a cheat meal, it needs to be a pretty special sort of occasion. If you've read The Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung, he talks about having sort of a sensible approach to a low-carb lifestyle, which means from time to time, it may make sense to have a cheat meal, if you decide you want to. For me, most of the time, I don't want to. And I find it easier and easier as time goes by to navigate those social situations where you might be tempted to cheat. So anyhow, that was a great comment. I'm glad that it was asked, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to respond this way in a podcast so that everybody could hear me. Again, these were only my opinions. I don't claim that I'm a super duper expert on anything, but that's it. That's the end of this podcast. Thanks for watching or listening.